Welcome to Bosch's Virtual Training Labs, IVA 3.5, Module 4, Configuration, Global Settings. In our last module, we performed encoder calibration. This gives us the ability to detect objects based on size and speed. Our next step is to actually define our global settings. From the Configuration menu, select the Global Settings tab on the right-hand side. There are several settings that we will have to adjust here. Size constraint can either be done manually or it can be done with a graphical tool in the main window, which we'll do later on in this module. In the Functions section, you'll notice there are several items that can be enabled or disabled by a checkbox. The items are as follows: idle object detection, removed object detection, image stabilization, FIR or far infrared camera, and enhanced separation. It needs to be noted that if you use image stabilization, FIR camera, or enhanced separation, you will increase the processor's utilization. This will be covered in a later module called Technical Aspects. You will also notice that there's a section called debounce time. The default debounce time is 20 seconds. Debounce time is the time that IVA will wait to trigger an alarm event. So if you were doing idle object detection and you wanted to trigger an alarm event after an object had been idle or deserted for 10 seconds, you would type 10 seconds in the debounce time slot. The next thing we'll be covering in this module is size constraint. As I stated earlier, you can modify the size constraint by manually typing in your minimum and maximum size or using the graphical tool on the left-hand side. Before we make any adjustments, let's define what size constraint is. Size constraint is the minimum and maximum size for all objects that will generate an alarm event. Objects that are smaller or larger than specified sizes will be ignored and thus save computing power. Now to make adjustments. We can either use the type in area on the right hand side and put in our minimum and maximum size, or we can use a graphical tool on the left. You will notice two blue anchor points in the bottom of the yellow grid. These adjust your minimum object size. The two anchor points at the top of the grid will adjust your maximum size. You'll notice my size constraint numbers adjust themselves if I move the yellow grid, and if I type in different numbers, the grid will adjust itself to the numbers I've typed in. If I've gotten close with my typing but I want to resize on the fly, I simply grab my anchor point and I readjust my yellow grid. The most important thing to take away from this module: if you're going to be doing IVA tasks based on size and speed, you have to calibrate your camera and you have to set your size constraints with your object area in global settings. You must also remember that the way you set your functions and your debounce time will affect the way your IVA tasks perform later on once we set them up. This concludes this module. Thank you.